"You're not invited to the Christmas cabin." My mom said, "You'd ruin the mood." But when their cabin heating failed and they started screaming, "Where are you? Help us!" I was busy with my girlfriend's family, and later sent wedding invitations with 0 seats reserved for them. Hey Reddit! My family decided I was optional, so I decided I was done. Thought walking away would end the drama. Turns out they had other plans. Let me start at the beginning. My name's Vincent. I'm 29. I live in the Northeast, and I work as a building automation/facilities engineer, which is just a fancy way of saying I keep big buildings from freezing, melting, catching fire, or breaking down. It's not glamorous, but it pays well and people usually respect me for it. I'm the youngest of 4, and not by a little. My siblings are 44, 42, and 39. I came along as the oops baby, a title they treated less like a joke and more like a legal classification. They never said Vincent, they said the surprise, which honestly feels like being a downloadable expansion pack for a family that was already finished. My mom, Josephine, is the kind of woman who can smile like she's offering you pie while insulting your entire existence. If passive-aggressive comments were an Olympic sport, she'd have her own Wheaties box. She talks about family values, which in her dictionary means whatever keeps the neighbors thinking we're normal. My dad, Patrick, is a professional fence sitter. His whole identity is keeping the peace, which basically means he never disagrees with Josephine. He'd watch Rome burn and politely ask if everyone could just lower their voices. Then, there's my brother, Edward, the golden child, the heir to the imaginary throne, the man who speaks exclusively in leadership, quotes he definitely pulled from LinkedIn. He walks into a room like he's about to present quarterly earnings. I swear he thinks our family reunion is a networking event. My sister Natalia is, well, she calls herself a free spirit. I call her if an essential oil had a human form. On always talking about cleansing crystals, detoxing the soul, and protecting her energy, even though she's got like 900 followers total, and most of them are bots. And then there's Iris. She's the only one of the 3 I'd describe as sweet. For a long time, I thought maybe she was the normal one, until she learned to stay quiet just to avoid being steamrolled by the rest of them. Growing up in that circus, yeah, I learned real fast that if I wanted anything done, I better do it myself. School concerts? Nobody showed. Choir performance? Oh, honey, we thought it was next week. Birthdays? We planned something, but you were probably busy. By age 14, I stopped asking for anything. Independence is easy when nobody's offering to help in the first place. The only consistent bright spots were my nieces, Eva and Valerie, Iris's kids. Those 2 actually treat me like a human being. They cling to me like I'm the fun uncle who escaped from a video game. And honestly, I'd do anything for them. They're the only reason I bothered showing up to family holidays. People sometimes say, "But Vincent, every family has their quirks." Yeah, and every football team has a mascot. Doesn't mean the mascot should be expected to do everyone's taxes and fix the stadium lights. My family didn't just have quirks. They had a whole talent show of emotional blind spots. As I got older and started working, it got worse. My job involves 12-hour shifts, on-call nights, system failures, freezing mechanical rooms, stuff normal people don't want to deal with. My family turned that into a personality trait for me. I wasn't Vincent anymore. I was the one who works all the time. The guy who probably can't come anyway. They stopped inviting me to things. They didn't forget. They just assumed I wasn't available. You know that saying, assumption is the mother of all screw-ups? My family treats it like a mission statement. But the one tradition I could still count on, was Christmas Eve. Dinner, presents, seeing my nieces, everyone pretending to like each other for exactly 3 hours. I always came late after work, but at least I still came. Until this year, but that's later. Last part of the intro. Yes, I'm dating someone. Gracie. Firm. Funny. Sharp as hell. The kind of woman who could verbally suplex a grown man without raising her voice. We'd been together a little over a year at this point, and I'd kept her away from my family on purpose. Anyway, that's me. That's them. And this is where things start going off the rails. The whole thing started with a text from my mom that read like she'd copy-pasted it from a neighborhood newsletter. "We're having a small family dinner tonight. You can come if you're not too busy." Translation. "We already planned this without you, but fine. Whatever." I showed the text to Gracie, and she raised an eyebrow. "Do you want to go?" "No," I said. "But the girls will be there, so yeah." She nodded. "Okay, I'm coming too." I warned her what my family was like. She shrugged and said, "I've met landlords scarier than parents." That should have been my first clue she was built for this. Josephine opened the door with that signature smile. the one that says welcome, while her eyes say, "You're already a problem." "Oh, Vincent," she sang, like I'd surprised her in her own home. Then her gaze slid to Gracie. "And you brought company." "Her name is Gracie," I said. "Lovely," Josephine replied, in the same tone someone uses when handed a damp rag. Patrick stood in the hallway behind her, offering his usual nod of Switzerland-like neutrality. We stepped inside. The air immediately smelled like lemon cleaner and tension. Edward was already at the table, giving Gracie what I can only describe as his corporate evaluation stare. "Welcome," he said, standing to shake her hand like they were finalizing a merger. "In this family, we value structure and clarity." Gracie blinked. "Cool. I value carbs, so I'm excited for dinner." I nearly choked trying not to laugh. Natalia was in the corner, propping her phone up against a plant pot, filming herself next to the casserole. "Family dinner energy is everything," she whispered to the camera. "Remember to stay hydrated and spiritually aligned." "You filming a documentary?" I asked. "It's content, Vincent," she said with a sigh. "You wouldn't understand. It's for my brand." "What brand?" I muttered. Iris scurried out from the kitchen with the girls in tow. "Uncle V!" Eva yelled, launching herself at me. Valerie followed suit, nearly knocking me off balance. That was the best part of the night right there. "Hi, Gracie," Iris said softly, giving her a tiny smile. "Sorry, it's chaotic." "Oh, this?" Gracie smiled. "I grew up with 3 brothers. This is nothing." Dinner was served, chicken, rice, salad that tasted like sadness. We sat down, and the conversation immediately became a competition for who could ignore me the hardest. Josephine smiled sweetly at Gracie. "So, dear, what do your parents think of you dating someone so busy?" I felt the hit before Gracie even reacted. She put down her fork. "They think he works hard and doesn't owe anyone his free time." Josephine blinked twice. Resetting her system, I guess. Edward jumped in, desperate to regain control. "I've always said productivity must align with family cohesion. It's about synergy." "Are you quoting a podcast right now?" I asked. "It's leadership philosophy." "Uh-huh." Gracie smirked behind her glass. Meanwhile, Natalia started waving sage around like she was clearing ghosts. "We should cleanse the energy in this room," she said. "Some people are holding tension." "Yeah," I said. "It's probably the smoke machine you're holding." She didn't get the joke. She never does. The nieces kept pulling me into their conversation. School stories, a drawing they made, their excitement for Christmas Eve. They instantly clung to Gracie too, handing her a hand-beaded bracelet they'd made. My heart melted on the spot. But the adults kept doing what they do best, pretending everything was perfect while making sure nothing actually felt that way. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed. Gracie glanced at it and whispered, "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "It's nothing, just work." It wasn't work. It was the feeling that I didn't belong in the house I grew up in. Dessert came and went. Small talk bounced around like a deflated balloon. Iris stayed quiet, giving me apologetic looks whenever Josephine dropped another subtle dig. When we finally stood to leave, the girls hugged us hard enough to crack ribs. Josephine kissed my cheek and said, "Drive safe, sweetheart, and try to make more time for family this year." "Sure," I said. But what I meant was I already did. You just didn't notice. Gracie held my hand all the way to the car. "You okay?" she asked once we were inside. "Yeah, just reminded why I don't come often." She squeezed my hand. "Vincent, you handled that better than most people would have. And for the record, I like your nieces. The adults, not so much." I laughed softly. "Yeah, same." At that moment, I had no idea this dinner was the warm-up act. The real blow was coming soon. And it was going to hit a lot harder than anything that happened at that table. I swung by my parents' house again a few days after the dinner, mostly to drop off a couple books Iris wanted for the girls. I wasn't expecting anything emotional or dramatic. Honestly, I was just tired and wanted to see Eva and Valerie before heading home to sleep for 12 years. The girls practically knocked me over when I walked in. "Uncle V!" "Guess what, guess what, guess what?" I pretended to think. "You finally beat that video game?" "No!" Eva said, hopping like a caffeinated rabbit. "We're going to a cabin!" Valerie blurted out. I paused mid-hello hug. "A cabin?" "Yeah!" Eva grinned. "For Christmas! A big one with bunk beds and a fireplace and everything. Grandma said everyone's going." Still smiling. Still innocent. Still holding my sleeve like they were pulling me into the excitement. I looked at Iris, standing behind them. She froze like I'd caught her holding stolen goods. "Everyone's going?" I repeated slowly. Valerie nodded. "Yep. Grandma said we're leaving on Christmas Eve so we can wake up there for Christmas morning." Christmas Eve. My one holiday. My one guaranteed seat at the table, even if it was the end of it. I stood up. Where's Mom? I walked into the kitchen and found Josephine humming cheerfully while arranging cookies on a tray like she was auditioning for a baking show. She turned and smiled too warmly. Oh, Vincent, what a surprise. I heard about a cabin trip, I said. For Christmas. Her smile didn't drop. It sharpened. Oh, that. Yeah, I said. That. When were you going to tell me? She sighed, like I was inconveniencing her. V, we all know your schedule is chaotic. This trip took planning. We needed committed people. I blinked. Committed people? I come to Christmas every year. She didn't flinch. You come late and tired, and you always look irritated. We didn't want to deal with that this year. That one stung. More because she said it like a fact, not an insult. That's not a reason to not invite me. It's exactly the reason, she said, sliding cookies onto the tray smugly. This trip is supposed to be peaceful. Before I could respond, Edward walked in. Vincent, don't act like this is a surprise. You're not really consistent. I stared at him. Consistent? You don't add value to things like this, he said, as calmly as someone discussing spreadsheet errors. Family trips need structure, reliability. You're not aligned with that. Jesus, Ed! He held up a hand like he was conducting a seminar. If you wanted to matter in the planning stages, you should have made yourself available. Simple as that. I laughed under my breath, the kind that tastes like hurt. I didn't even know there were planning stages. Natalia breezed in next, already recording herself in selfie mode. We just wanted good energy this year, okay? And your vibe lately is dense. I stared at her. My vibe is dense? Yeah, she said, lowering her phone. You walk in all stressed and tired and it ruins the atmosphere. We wanted healing, not whatever you bring. I almost asked if she was serious, but yeah, she was exactly serious. Patrick entered behind them, arms crossed, already sighing. Let's not make a scene. It was easier without you this time. That one hit my chest like a cold fist. Easier without me. I'd spent years showing up late, tired, and beat from work, but I'd shown up. I'd stayed up after 12-hour shifts just to watch my nieces open gifts. I'd fixed their thermostat in the middle of a snowstorm. I'd come every time they needed something. And now? Well, son, life's easier without you. I looked toward Iris, who stood silently near the doorway, twisting her hands. She didn't say a word. She didn't defend me. She didn't even meet my eyes. Honestly, that might have hurt most of all. So, I said finally, voice steady even though I felt the crack beneath it. You all agreed on this together? Josephine shrugged, like this was the weather report. We didn't see the point in complicating things, dear. By inviting me. She smiled thinly. Yes. My jaw tightened. Right. I walked back into the living room, knelt down, and hugged the girls. Uncle V, are you coming to the cabin too? Eva asked. I didn't lie. No, sweetheart. It didn't work out this year. Her face fell. Valerie hugged my neck so tight I had to close my eyes. I'll still see you soon, I whispered. Then I stood, grabbed my coat, and walked out without saying goodbye. Outside in the car, I sat with my hands on the wheel for a long moment. This wasn't sadness. It was recognition. Then texted Gracie. Can I come over? Something happened. Yes. Already heating up dinner. Get here safe. When I walked into her place, she took one look at my face and just pulled me into her arms. No questions, no speeches, just warmth. Actual warmth. Something my own house hasn't had in years. I told her everything while she listened with her jaw clenched and her thumb brushing my hand. When I finished, she said quietly, Vincent, that's not forgetfulness. That's cruelty disguised as convenience. I nodded, throat tight. Then she asked, do you want to spend Christmas with my family instead? You're welcome. My parents already asked about you. I almost said no out of habit. But then I realized something. The only people who consistently wanted me around were sitting in front of me, not back in my childhood house. Yeah, I said finally. I'd like that. And just like that, my Christmas plans changed. But the fallout from that cabin trip? Yeah, that was still coming. And my family wasn't done surprising me. Christmas Eve came faster than I expected. Normally, this is the night I drag myself to my parents' house after a 12-hour shift, smelling like boiler rooms and burnt wiring, only to get greeted with, oh, you made it. Not this year. This year, when I clocked out, I drove straight to Gracie's. She opened the door before I could knock. My mom's been asking every 10 minutes when you're getting here, she said, grabbing my jacket. And yes, I told her you're a person, not a countdown. I smirked. Good, because I didn't practice an entrance. Just walk in and exist, she said. They'll love you. She wasn't lying. Her family's house looked like real people lived there. Warm lights, mismatched decor, the smell of actual food instead of scented candles trying too hard. The second I stepped in, her mom hugged me like she'd known me for years. "There he is," she said. "Come on, sit, eat. You must be starving." Gracie leaned in and whispered, "See? No auditions required." Her dad shook my hand like he meant it. Her brothers sized me up in the normal protective older brother way. But once they realized I wasn't an idiot, they let it go. There was noise, laughter, people bumping into each other, kids yelling over games. A functioning family. A real one. I sat next to Gracie at the table while her mom piled food onto my plate like I hadn't eaten in 3 days. More turkey? Potatoes? "Oh, wait, try this stuffing. It's my best one." I didn't argue. For once, I didn't have to. We played cards. We joked. At one point, Gracie's uncle slapped my shoulder and said, "You're all right, kid. You want to be on my team next round?" I shrugged. "As long as you don't cry when I destroy you." They all laughed. Not offended, not threatened, just enjoying it. It felt weird being treated like I belonged somewhere. Good weird. Halfway through a game of spoons, my phone buzzed. Josephine. Gracie saw the caller ID and raised a brow. "Answer if you want, ignore if you don't. You're with us tonight." She meant it. I let it ring. A minute later, another call. Then a text. I didn't look. Instead, I leaned back and watched Gracie laughing with her cousins, while her mom tried to explain the rules of a game no one understood. Her family wasn't perfect. They were loud, messy, chaotic. But there was no passive-aggressive commentary, no careful walking, no performance. This was warmth. My parents' house was temperature-controlled. Meanwhile, in another part of the state, things were falling apart. I didn't know the details yet. But based on the growing number of notifications hitting my phone, the cabin trip was going sideways fast. It buzzed again and again. I finally flipped it over, only the screen, and saw a preview of a message from Edward. "The heating system is failing. This falls under your skill set. Call ASAP." I put the phone face down. Gracie's mom was asking if I wanted dessert. Another text popped up from Edward. "We reset the thermostat. It didn't come back on." Translation: they touched something they shouldn't have touched, and now it was my fault. 2 minutes later, another buzz. Josephine. Voicemail this time. I didn't listen, but I imagine she was using the same tone she reserves for talking to store managers she wants to intimidate. Then Natalia. "The vibe here is terrible, V. You need to fix the furnace or whatever. You're literally the only one who understands this stuff." Yeah. Suddenly I was useful. Gracie looked over. "You okay?" "They're blowing up my phone. Do you want to see what they want?" I shook my head. If it was an emergency involving a human being, they'd call 911. If it's about the cabin, they can deal with it themselves. She smiled. Good. She didn't ask follow-up questions. Didn't try to talk me into responding. Just respected the decision. Finally, my phone buzzed 5 times in a row. That's when Patrick, the human beige cardigan, texted, "It would be easier if you'd stop ignoring us." Easier. They'd said that before. It didn't land any softer the second time. I pressed the mute switch on my phone and slid it into my pocket. "It can wait," I said. And then I grabbed another spoon and jumped back into the game. Later that night, when things started to wind down, Gracie's family gathered in the living room. Someone put on Home Alone, the kind of Christmas classic everyone talks over. Her mom made hot chocolate. One of her brothers passed me a blanket, like it was the most normal thing in the world. And Duckert sitting there, surrounded by people who didn't need anything from me, who didn't guilt me, who didn't treat me like the family malfunction. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Home. Not a place. A feeling. My parents called 2 more times before midnight. Then 3, then 10. I didn't answer once. When the final round of calls shifted from "call us back" to "where are you?" I turned the phone completely off. Gracie rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "Proud of you." Christmas Day with Gracie's family was the first time I didn't feel like the extra kid at the table. I didn't know the full chaos happening at the cabin yet. Busted heat, dead thermostat, freezing pipes, my siblings slowly turning into popsicles, but I had a feeling. I wasn't there. And somehow, that made everything better. For me, at least. For them, not so much. I didn't turn my phone back on until the morning after Christmas. Gracie was still asleep on my shoulder, her hair half covering my face, and her family's dog was snoring at my feet like he'd claimed me. If peace had a physical form, that was it. Then I powered on my phone, and peace died instantly. 37 missed calls, 22 voicemails, 50 plus texts. My phone basically had a panic attack. The family group chat, usually dead except for random chain messages from Josephine, had exploded like someone handed Natalia a flamethrower. The most recent message I saw was Edward's. Ignoring your family in a crisis reflects a concerning lack of leadership maturity. I stared at it for a second in disbelief. Leadership maturity? Buddy, you couldn't lead a Roomba out of a cardboard box. The second message was Josephine. We could have died, Vincent. I don't appreciate being treated this way. Died? They were in a luxury cabin, not the Siberian wilderness. And then, Natalia, I can't believe you let us freeze. The vibe was traumatic. I snorted out loud. Gracie stirred. You okay? Oh, yeah, I said. Some sitcom show just started. She peeked at my screen. Oh, they've lost their minds. You don't know the half of it yet? She sat up. Tell me. Later, I said, because honestly, it was too stupid to ruin the morning. But the universe wasn't done. My phone started ringing again. Josephine. Gracie looked at me. Answer if you want, she said, but don't you let them ruin your day. I hit decline. Josephine called back immediately. Decline. She tried a third time. I answered. Before I could say hello, she started shrieking like someone unplugged her emotional support sound machine. Vincent, how could you do this to us? We were suffering. I kept my voice calm. Morning, Mom. Don't morning me. We had the fireplace going, everyone huddled in blankets. Natalia was crying about trauma, while the pipes made noises that sounded expensive, she said. You left us. Ah, there it was. The real Josephine. You knew we were in trouble, she said. You knew the cabin heat failed. You knew we needed you. Did you call the property manager? I asked. Or did you skip the normal adult steps and go straight to summon Vincent like a tool from the shed? We called the property manager, Josephine snapped. They said no one could get out here until tomorrow. So, I said slowly, now I'm needed. Silence. Then, don't be childish. I'm not, I said. I'm just matching the energy I received when the cabin was planned. Another silence. Longer. Sharper. Then Edward grabbed the phone. Vincent, he said, like he was starting a board meeting. You demonstrated extremely poor crisis management yesterday. Gracie mouthed, what? In disbelief. Ed, I said, you booked a winter cabin and didn't check the heating system before arriving. We assumed it would work, he said. And I assumed families invite their kids to Christmas, I replied. Wild how assumptions work. He audibly exhaled, his patented, I'm disappointed in you, sigh. That attitude, he said, is exactly why you weren't included. Gracie sat straighter, like she was ready to jump through the phone. I didn't let her. I wasn't included because you didn't think I mattered, I said. Let's call it what it is. Natalia suddenly appeared in the background, yelling loud enough for the speaker to distort. You ruined Christmas, Vincent! This was supposed to be a healing trip, and you ruined it! How? I asked. Did I ruin a trip I wasn't invited to? You just did, she yelled. Your absence created negative energy. I rubbed my forehead. Pretty sure the lack of heat created the negative energy. Patrick grabbed the phone next, voice low and disappointed in the most useless way possible. We really needed you, son, he said. It was selfish not to come. I laughed under my breath. Selfish? After you all told me, directly, that the cabin would be easier without me? That's not what we meant, he said. Dad, it's exactly what you meant. He had no comeback. I could hear chaos in the background. Someone yelling about frozen pipes. Natalia complaining for the 8th time. Josephine crying dramatically enough she probably expected applause. The whole family was melting down, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt done. Vincent, Josephine said, coming back on the line with shaky breaths, we expect you here tonight to talk about this. As a family. No, I said simply. No, she repeated, like that word had never been used against her. No, I said again. I'm spending the day with people who actually respect me. Her inhale was sharp. How dare you? I hung up. Gracie stared at me wide-eyed. Holy hell, babe. I'm not doing it anymore, I said. If they want to talk, they can make an appointment. And it'll still be a no. She grinned. There he is. An hour later, while we were helping her mom clean up the wrapping paper, the doorbell rang. Gracie peeked outside and whispered, Oh, Vincent, it's them. Then it clicked. The one safety thing my mother bullied me into years ago. Location sharing. I'd never turned it off. Of course she'd use it now. I walked to the door. On the porch stood Josephine with tear-streaked makeup, Patrick wringing his hands, Edward looking like he wanted to file a complaint with HR, and Natalia recording the whole thing like it was a reunion episode. Vincent, Josephine said, we're here to talk. No, I repeated. Not today. Edward stepped forward. You owe us. I owe you nothing, I cut in. Not my time, not my energy, not my labor. Natalia scoffed. Why are you being so aggressive? Because polite didn't work, I said. Josephine blinked fast. Sweetheart, please, this is embarrassing. For who? I asked. Me? Or the people who showed up uninvited to yell at me on Christmas Day? Patrick opened his mouth. I raised a hand. Don't, unless you're finally choosing a side. He shut it. I took one step closer. I'm done being the forgotten kid. I'm done being the fixer. And I'm done being treated like furniture you only notice when it's missing. The porch went silent. And next time you plan a family trip, I added, don't worry about inviting me. I closed the door gently. Not slammed, not dramatic, just final. Gracie slipped her arms around my waist and rested her cheek against my back. You okay? She whispered. For the first time in a long time, I said, yeah, I actually am. The real confrontation was coming, the one that would tear open everything they'd buried. But for now, let them sit with the heat they created. They'd already proven they couldn't handle the cold. 3 days after the Christmas porch incident, my parents texted saying they needed to talk as a family. I ignored it. Then Edward sent a novel-length text about closing feedback loops. Ignored. Then Natalia posted a story of herself crying in her car about toxic siblings who don't value healing. Ignored again. But when Josephine texted the nieces were asking for me, I agreed to stop by. Not for them, for the girls. Gracie came too. She insisted. And honestly, I wanted her there. She grounded me, balanced the fire. When we pulled up, all their cars were already in the driveway. Of course, Gracie muttered. They ambush-style planned this. Yeah, I sighed. Classic move. We walked inside. Chaos was immediate. Josephine stood there with swollen eyes like she'd practiced crying in the mirror. Patrick hovered behind her, looking like he wanted to apologize but didn't know how. Edward had his arms crossed like he was conducting an intervention. Natalia was recording herself from the corner, whispering, "This is a safe space?" Even though it absolutely wasn't. Only Iris looked genuinely nervous, back pressed to the wall, hands twisting in her sleeves. The moment they saw me, the room snapped into noise. Josephine stepped forward. "Vincent, sweetheart, we're very concerned about how you've been acting." "Really?" I said. "Because I've been concerned about how you've been acting for the past 29 years. Her mouth opened, closed, opened. Patrick rushed forward. "Let's all calm down." "No," I said. "Say whatever you brought me here to hear. I'm not staying long." Edward cleared his throat like he'd been waiting for a spotlight. "This rift," he said, "is damaging the family structure. We need to address the root cause." I stared at him. "Ed, the root cause is that you're all assholes." Natalia gasped like I had slapped a priest. "Wow," she whispered to her phone camera. Aggression. So much aggression. Gracie snatched the phone out of her hand so fast Natalia squealed. "No filming," Gracie said. "Sit down." I've never loved her more. Then Josephine spoke in her guilt-tripped sugar voice. "Vincent, we know you're sensitive, but this behavior is unacceptable. You hurt us." I tilted my head. "You excluded me from Christmas." She nodded, like she was confirming a shipping order. "We did what was best for the family." "For the family," I repeated. "Not including me. You always make gatherings uncomfortable," she said. "You come tired, negative, and you're difficult." "Difficult?" I laughed. "For showing up?" Edward chimed in. "You have to consider how you impact group dynamics." Gracie muttered, "If he hits you, I'll lie in court." I ignored him. Why didn't any of you just tell me the truth? Why has it always been this passive-aggressive bullshit? Why am I the one you cut out? That's when something cracked in Josephine's expression. A twitch. A flicker. A sign she'd been holding a truth in her throat for too long. "It's because of before," she said quietly. "Before what?" She clutched her necklace. "Before you were born." Patrick put a hand on her shoulder. "Joe, don't—" "No," she snapped. "He wants the truth? Let him have it." The room stilled. Iris looked like she wanted to disappear. Josephine inhaled sharply, then said, "You were never supposed to exist." Silence. She continued, voice trembling with something that wasn't sadness, more like resentment. "We had a baby before you. A planned baby. A perfect baby. And we lost it. It broke us. It ruined everything. And then you came. Too soon. Too unexpected. I wasn't ready. None of us were." She exhaled like she'd been holding that sentence for half her life. "You weren't the child we wanted," she said. "You were the replacement." My chest went numb. Not heavy. Numb. Like my body knew if I felt anything, I'd crumble. Edward added, "It's not her fault. It's just how things were. We adjusted." Natalia chimed in. It explains the energy difference. It's trauma. Gracie stiffened beside me. Did you seriously just say energy difference about a child being rejected by his family? I lifted a hand for her to stop, not because she was wrong, but because I wanted this moment for myself. So, I said slowly, let me get this straight. I looked at each of them, one by one. You lost the baby you wanted, then I was born. And instead of dealing with that grief, you projected it onto me for 29 years. Josephine's chin wobbled. Patrick murmured, It wasn't intentional. I cut him off. You said it was easier without me? He looked away. Edward tried again. This conversation needs structure. No, I snapped. This conversation needs honesty. I stepped closer. I'm done being punished for someone else's loss. I'm done being the placeholder child. I'm done being your emotional storage unit. Josephine sobbed. We tried. No, I said firmly. You pretended. You performed. And you never once gave me the love you gave the others. They all stared at me, stunned, defensive, unraveling. And then Iris stepped forward, eyes shining. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have said something. I should have defended you. I didn't, because I was scared of them. But you didn't deserve any of it. She broke down. The girls ran to me and hugged my legs. I put a hand on her shoulder. Thank you, I said quietly. That means something. Then I turned back to the others. We're done here. Josephine sobbed harder. Patrick stood frozen. Edward looked like someone revoked his leadership license. Natalia whispered, This is so toxic, as if she wasn't part of it. I grabbed Gracie's hand. We're leaving, I said. The truth didn't set them free. It exposed them. And it freed me, for the first time in my life. After the blow-up at my parents' house, the next few weeks felt like someone hit mute on the whole world. My phone barely buzzed. Nobody tried to show up at my door. No one sent a fake "let's talk" text. It was weird. Not peaceful, but quiet in that something's loading in the background way. The silence cracked when Natalia posted a crying selfie on her story with the caption, When your own brother chooses violence over healing. Then a second one, Cutting off family isn't growth. Then, Protecting your aura from cold energy. Gracie read them over my shoulder and said, If she says aura one more time, I'm staging an intervention. Iris texted privately, I'm sorry about the posts. I'm staying out of it. She was actually trying. The others were gearing up for another circus. In the middle of all that noise, Gracie's family invited us over for dinner again. No agenda, no fake apology sessions. Her mom stuffed me full of lasagna. Her dad asked about work and actually listened. Her cousins yelled at each other over who cheated at a board game. I just sat there thinking, yeah, this is what normal is supposed to feel like. At some point in the chaos, Gracie laughed at something her brother said. She had her hair tied up, flour on her sleeve from helping in the kitchen, and she looked so stupidly beautiful that something in my brain just clicked into place. I reached into my pocket, where the ring had been for 3 days, walked up behind her, and tapped her shoulder. She turned, confused, wiping her hands on a towel. Marry me? I said. Her eyes widened. No dramatic gasp, no tears at first, just shock. Then her lips curled into the biggest smile I've ever seen. Yes, she whispered, like she couldn't get the word out fast enough. Yes, Vincent. Yes. Her mom screamed. Someone dropped a bowl. Her dad hugged me harder than any man should hug another man wearing glasses. It was loud and chaotic and perfect. I texted Iris the news. She wrote back immediately, Congratulations. The girls are going to lose it. She sent 3 heart emojis. No guilt, no manipulation, just happiness. Wedding planning started the same night. Not because we rushed, but because Gracie's family celebrated by brainstorming like a SWAT team. When it came to the guest list, Gracie slid a pen toward me. Write down who you want. I wrote 4 names. Gracie's family, Iris, Eva, Valerie. She asked, That's it? That's it? What about? No. She nodded once. Good. Invitations went out. Iris cried on video chat. The girls shrieked so loud they scared their cat. Gracie's mom hugged me again the next time she saw me. The quiet from my side didn't last. Natalia had her inevitable meltdown. Some people abandon family, she said in a video, blotchy-faced. This is not what ancestors want for us. Gracie, still half asleep next to me on the couch, muttered, Your ancestors want you to log off. Then came Edward. He sent me a long 27-paragraph email titled, A Message for Your Marriage Journey. The first sentence said, Marriage is a union of alignment, synergy, and emotional KPIs. Gracie leaned over my shoulder, saw the line, and said, Absolutely not, before grabbing my phone and hitting delete. 10 minutes later, Josephine texted from a new number. Your wedding is embarrassing us. The neighbors are asking questions. I replied, stay home. Then I blocked her, followed by Patrick, then Edward, then Natalia. Not dramatic, just necessary. Months passed. Plans turned into deposits. Deposits turned into a date. And then one day I blinked and it was here. The wedding day. Small venue. Warm lights, soft music, real smiles. Gracie walked toward me, and every stupid thing my parents ever said evaporated. Eva and Valerie ran ahead of her as the flower girls, throwing petals everywhere, spinning like hyperactive tornadoes. Iris laughed behind them, shaking her head. When Gracie reached me, everything else blurred out. We exchanged rings, simple words, no poetic vows, no flowery speeches. Just her looking at me and me looking at her. You're stuck with me, she whispered. Lucky me, I said. Everyone laughed. Good laughter. Not forced, not performative. Her family hugged us like we'd been theirs for years. Her brothers lifted me off the ground. Her grandmother kissed my forehead. Her dad clapped my back and said, welcome to the family, son. After the ceremony, while the music played and the girls dragged Gracie to the dance floor, I checked my phone one last time. Another message from a new number. Josephine, of course. Your behavior reflects poorly on all of us. I blocked the number. Then I slipped my phone back into my pocket and walked into the reception hall where Gracie was waiting. Hands open, eyes bright. The door closed behind me, and that was that. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.